Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo!
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited for you guys to hear from this very next guest. I feel like she's my soul sister that I just met virtually, that I never knew was my soul sister, but now I have one. So I'm so excited to have my friend Justine Sloan. She's a transformational coach, speaker, co-founder of Boss Ladies MKE, and now a best time selling author. She just released her books, Someone I Love Lives Here, which, by the way, I'm obsessed with that title. And it's crazy because if you have read Once Upon a Diet and then you picked up Someone I Love Lives Here, you almost wouldn't be able to tell which book was which because our stories are so similar. So I'm so excited for you to hear from Justine herself. And we're definitely going to be talking a lot about self-love, body image, relationship with food, exercise, all of the above. So anyways, Justine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'm so excited to be here. And I really, truly feel like we are definitely soul sisters.
It's so crazy. Like, honestly, also too, so if you guys get her book, which you should, and she'll tell you where it is, the very first, I think it's the intro or chapter 1 with your picture in Florida. First of all, if you read my book, chapter 1 is about like my summers in Florida with my grandparents. And she has a picture of when she was 11 years old. I literally thought it was me. I'm not even kidding. Like, that is literally, I was like, I had to do a double take. I feel like because we both have like the button nose and we were like, quote unquote, overweight, whatever you want to call it as kids. Right. And like, it was just like, oh my God, is that me? It's so crazy. And it's so sweet. And the smile, you were just happy. You're just trying to be happy in the world. Oh God. So anyways, Justine, before we even get into the interview and more about the book, tell me who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Well, thank you so much for that intro. And as you mentioned, I am a coach. I really work with women around body image healing and learning how to trust their bodies and eat intuitively. And I use what I've called the empowered eating method, to truly feel empowered around food. But I'm really just obsessed with empowering women in their bodies and in their lives. And that came from so many years, literally decades of really, really struggling to love myself, really struggling a lot with body image and, really looking for answers that I didn't have. I love being able to help other women now, kind of find their way through and navigate this journey. And and then as you mentioned, I'm so excited. I just released my book last week. So it was a long journey to get there, but my book is all about my personal story with body image disordered eating. Starts at just 7 years old. And it's crazy. I've been reading your book the past week and even the very first line of like our introductions, they're almost identical.
So I was just 9, you were 7. Like it literally so weird.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. We started writing the book around the same time too.
Yeah.
And we released it around the same time.
Yeah. And like no contact during that.
We never knew each other before. Like when did we connected on social media like a month ago, maybe?
Yeah, like the summer. Yeah. Late summer, I think.
Yeah. Like very sick. Like that's just weird. Very weird. But I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. We would have been besties as kids.
Yeah, literally. He's a friend then. So let's dive into, I know why you wrote the book. We'll talk about the book later. I want to kind of get a backstory first, like kind of what brought you to where you are today. You mentioned, actually, I was reading even before I started reading your book, I just read the back of it. And I didn't know that at some point you mentioned that you were like, super, super fit. And I'm going to use quotations and air quotes because meaning like she had like chiseled abs, right? So she looked fit. I'm sure she was also exercising like that, but all that to say, you had like over 2 million followers, I think you said on Instagram. and basically, but behind it all, you were miserable. So can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So because of my childhood and teenage years, it was so hardwired into me that thinner was better and that I was more valuable to the world if I could look perfect and be as thin as possible. So that led me into the fitness industry. And I actually started working at a gym in college to get a membership there and started learning about the whole world of fitness, like sports nutrition and weightlifting and all of that. And then I got certified as a personal trainer just before my senior year of college and instantly fell in love with fitness. And as a personal trainer, though, I really wanted to be my own billboard. So I had this idea. A couple guys at the gym were doing bodybuilding shows and competing in these fitness competitions. And one of them mentioned it to me one day, like, hey, Justine, you could do this. So that was kind of my idea to sell my personal training, that I would just become a walking billboard. And I thought I would do one show and it'd be one and done, like just get in sick shape. So I set a goal to compete in a fitness competition. And my first one, I took second to last. So I looked amazing. I had never been fitter. I actually prepared for that show in a really healthy way. But here I was with all of these old insecurities about my body and never feeling good enough and, having a lot of issues with competing with other women and always feeling like I was coming up short. And so that really was, one of the most insidious things I could have gotten into. So instantly I was hooked and I did one show after another. I ended up doing 19 fitness competitions in 4 years, which is not recommended, not healthy. And I just got deeper and deeper into being super obsessive about it. And I went to college in New York, moved home for a year, and then went back out there to pursue my fitness career. And I was incredibly successful in the fitness industry. I got a huge sponsorship. So at that point, I was getting paid to do these shows and do the fitness modeling and was really getting a paycheck to be as lean as possible. But underneath it all, my habits were terrible. I had coaches who were recommending, extremely strict diets. I remember one time I was even eating tilapia for breakfast, which to this day, I cannot eat tilapia, but hours and hours of cardio, 7 days a week, just atrocious things. And I get into all the details in the book, but I look back and really that is the part of my life that's hardest for me to look back on, the things that I was doing to my body. And then I'm posting these pictures and women are looking at them and commenting goals, because from the outside, I looked super fit. And meanwhile, my anxiety was through the roof. I was completely miserable, no healthy relationships. And no matter how lean I got, it was never good enough. I was always nitpicking myself and always felt like I still had to be better. And so finally, I hit my rock bottom. It was a huge blessing in disguise when in 2014, my body gave out and I was diagnosed with severe adrenal fatigue. My thyroid had shut down and I literally couldn't do it anymore. I got a call from my doctor and he said, you have to take a break. And that was kind of an awakening for me. And that was when I decided to move back to Milwaukee. I was married once before my current marriage for a brief time and I got a divorce. I literally let my entire life unravel and changed everything and stopped all of these atrocious behaviors and really started working on healing myself from the inside out. And now over 7 years later, I'm in a completely different place. Looking back, that's where I can tell people, I feel like I almost needed to have that experience just to prove to myself that you being leaner, you losing weight, you looking a certain way, does not equal happiness or finally feeling good enough, because I never felt worse, when I was in this position of modeling and, eventually winning shows.
Yeah. It's even when you got the thing that you thought, you, like you mentioned, when you finished in, like you said, second to last, and then that didn't feel like it was enough. So then even when you were winning and then you were still at your leanest, that was never enough. So you're right. You're always chasing it because you're constantly moving the goalpost and realize you're not really focusing on what actually matters. Right. So it's always going to kind of feel empty, at the end of that.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to, you mentioned there was a point where you kind of hit rock bottom and then you kind of decided, you know what, I am not doing this anymore. I know that couldn't have been comfortable. Like, I think, so obviously, like, we know that staying in the extremes is uncomfortable, right? We know that, you know, the disordered eating habits, the poor body image, the pressure, the excessive exercise, like, that's definitely not comfortable. But I think the reason why people struggle with healing and getting on the other side of that is because when it's so uncomfortable, but you still know what it feels like, right? So it's like you always go back to it, but you also know that, like, you're fed up with it. So you're trying to change it, right? So I just want you to talk about, like, that part in the middle, because I feel like it was probably very messy and really hard for you. And kind of like, how did you push through those very uncomfortable moments when you were trying so desperately to change, but you were going to a place that was so unknown and unfamiliar?
Mm-hmm. That is such a good question. And I feel like I actually haven't really talked a lot about that, but it was definitely a process. It was years, and it was letting go of one thing at a time. You know, it's kind of stripping down the layers. So first it was like, with the adrenal fatigue, I had to really cut back on my workouts. So I went from, you know, hours a day to really having to take it easy and, you know, walks, a little bit of cycling, but it was a huge drastic change, and I was terrified. And then also not being on a meal plan and starting to allow myself to eat foods that weren't on this set plan from a coach, you know, that really freaked me out too. But while I started reducing my stress levels because of all of this too, I started right away feeling so much better, and then even looking better. And I mean, like, my skin, I feel like the color came back to my face, just looking much, much healthier. Mm-hmm. So that was encouraging to keep going. And, you know, that was when I was turning 28 years old, and I was like, I have no idea how to eat, because I had been on either a diet or binging or a meal plan or something my entire life. So, you know, it was kind of tiptoeing into it. And for probably at least 2 years after that point, probably 2.5, I was still tracking macros. So MyFitnessPal every single day. And I was telling myself, you know, like, that was perfectly healthy. That was fine. And then as I started digging in more and more, you know, now I don't really believe that our bodies need the exact same amount every day. And I think it's also just very tedious. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think anyone wants to use this app forever and look everything up. And even though I always say, I think I knew calories in every type of food by the time I was 13. So even after I deleted MyFitnessPal, I would find myself often mentally tabulating my whole day. Mm-hmm. So it was one little piece at a time. And then also my very last diet, I tell this story, when I was getting certified as a health coach, they had this 14-day detox protocol, and it all looked fine. It was, you know, cutting gluten and dairy and, you know, a big focus on whole foods, nothing wrong with that. But I was like, I'm not going to recommend this to people if I don't try it. I was a personal trainer for 10 years before that. And same thing, I was always trying my own workouts first. I'm not going to give it to someone else if I haven't done it myself. And so a 14-day detox, day 4, I was marching up the street to the supermarket to get pints of ice cream because I, you know, just freaked out from the restriction. And in that moment, it finally hit me that, like, I'm not messed up. It's not me lacking willpower. It's the diet mentality. You know, it sets us up for this. So that was my very last diet. That was finally when I'm like, never, ever again. And, you know, now the past couple of years, even I really related so much. I know we were just on vacation, and it's like now, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's holidays or vacations, where it used to be so up and down, like my weight and my habits were just all over the place. Now it's just like this real balance and feeling like I'm, you know, in a stable place no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that's truly how you heal that's how you know your relationship with food is healed. Because it's like, yeah, things vary. Obviously, when you're on vacation, you're not so much able to be so much in charge of what your choices are, in the sense of, like, you know, you don't know what they're putting in it or whatever, but you can still make choices that you feel aligned with and you feel comfortable and confident with, regardless of whether you're on vacation, if you're at a friend's house, if you're out to dinner, like, you know, those things, honestly, guys, if you're listening to this and the thought of like, going to a friend's house for dinner gives you severe anxiety, there's some healing that needs to be done there regarding like what's coming up and why is it so stressful for me? It's just food. I know that's so hard to hear, because like when we stress about it for so many years, I used to be like, but really like, it's just food. Like, and you can get to this place. And that's where Justine and I are people who help you do that. It's just getting to a place where you choose foods that make you feel your best most of the time. And like, because it makes you feel good, whether that most of the time it's going to physically make you feel good. And then sometimes you're going to choose something because emotionally it's going to make you feel good, but it's still in a container in a way that's not out, like not in this like all or nothing approach. And there's really is balance within that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's get into the book a little bit. So, I think it's pretty clear kind of why you decided to write it. What should somebody expect from reading it? What are the things that they're going to learn, hear, read, see?
Mm-hmm. Well, the feedback I've been getting most from women is, they're not so much saying it's triggering, but just it really hits home and unfortunately resonates with pretty much all the women I've talked to that have read it so far, from 20s to 60s.
Yeah.
And, I think these themes are so common for women. And I think they're topics that we're starting to talk about now, but definitely when we were growing up, no one was acknowledging these things. So for that reason, I think we're all taught to just, again, as girls, we get these messages of like, don't rock the boat, be good, be a good girl, keep other people comfortable, be quiet, be small. And so I am, kind of making this point to shake that stuff up. And that includes other women, really inviting them to look at their stories too. So the book is my story, but I say right away in the beginning, the parts, if it does trigger you, that's really an invitation for you to go deeper, whether that's with a professional, therapy coach or something like that, or just diving in. I even created journal prompts and things like that. But one of the big themes in my book too is unspoken rules of being a woman. Mm-hmm. And then toward the end of the book, when I really had my whole rock bottom breakdown, ending up being a huge breakthrough, I cross all those rules out. And then I finish the book with empowering truths of being a woman. And that is what I live by now. But again, those are, that's my experience, my life story, but we all have those, we all have these messages that we're taught, and it's our conditioning, our programming from such an early age, and we didn't necessarily decide to believe those things. They're just kind of passed on to us or modeled to us. And so now as adults, I think it's so empowering to really look back and see what we were taught or what we decided as children, and really see if that's still true for us or if we want it to be true, because we really do get to be the authors of our own lives. Mm-hmm. And I think that starts with, again, reflecting on, what's not working, what's not serving us, what we need to let go of in terms of the rule book, or I say burn the rule book, and really create your own way and your own empowering truths.
Yeah, I think I'm so on board with that. So how does one start to so we talked about kind of where you were, kind of that messy kind of middle. And then now let's talk about kind of the how to. How does one now become clear on what those things are that will work for them? How did it become more evident for you of because obviously, I went through a very similar experience as well. It's so funny. I literally like the same. We're the same person. We just didn't know yet. But I have a whole section of my book about saved by sickness, because I too was exercising twice a day, an extreme calorie deficit. I didn't say it specifically, but there was a mixture of adrenal fatigue and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It was all from extreme restriction and excessive exercise. That was the root to all of it. Right. And so I had to stop exercising, and I was an athlete growing up too. So for me, I only ever worked out. I didn't know a life outside of exercise. It's actually how I manage my anxiety, which is why I've been struggling really badly recently, because I haven't been using it to cope as much, because it used to be the only thing I did. All that to say, I know how you kind of have to go from one extreme, right? So you were extremely restricting exercising excessively to taking it completely off. And then I'm sure kind of removing all of those rules from food. And I think that's what scares people. But now, how does somebody take, from exercising like crazy to to not really exercising or keeping it super low, from extreme food like restriction to like kind of allowing all foods to fit, right? How does one now find that middle? Like, how does one now come to a place, or did you just stay on that one end and that works well for you?
No, I really say that's one thing I say is like make friends with the gray. So there's black and white extremes. And I was always very extreme. I think when I first got Facebook in college, one of my quotes was like, nothing in moderation. I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just, so I'm all about, and some people don't like the word balance, but to me, balance is, I'm always telling clients there is no on track or off track. Like life is like ebb and flow. And like some days and weeks you feel like a rock star, and some days and weeks you go to an all inclusive and you drink a lot of margs, and then you just get back into what works for you. And it's like really making friends with that gray area, because I believe we get into trouble when everything is too extreme. And now I'm able to, even with the book launch, I was not working out as much as I normally do. And it's just like noticing that, and where, the old tendency would be to beat myself up or, make myself wake up super early or do it even though I'm tired. It's like just really starting to love and respect my body, and also just be like, it's all good. It's okay. It's a day, it's a week, even if it's a month, like life is, it's a big picture. So just starting to kind of like soften those hard edges and let go of those extremes. And a huge thing for me too has just been like really gently observing my thoughts and not judging the stuff. When we talk about rewriting the rules, it's like oftentimes when we look at our stuff and look at really the root of some of these issues, like it's not fun. It's, not easy to do. So just being so gentle and loving and gently observing your thoughts. Like, you are not your thoughts. We have, I think, what is it, like 70,000 thoughts a day or something like that, and just observing what's really going on, being really honest with ourselves and just saying like, is this working? Is this serving me? I've been thinking about this concept a lot, because even though I've healed with a lot of my food and body and exercise issues, like I do see some of the same concepts creep into how I treat myself in my work and my career. And again, like, always needing that next thing and really kind of being tough on myself. And I really don't believe in tough love. Like, I think we are tough enough on ourselves. And I find that when I'm just really gentle, loving, supportive to myself, I tend to be so much more motivated, inspired, creative, happy, So I think that's a big thing too. Just like being way more gentle with yourself, lovingly observing these thoughts. And, and I'm a big believer too in like resources. So definitely if you can work with coaches, healers, therapists, I feel like I've done it all, but also podcasts. My life has changed because of podcasts, and it is this massive, resource of free content, and the stuff you'll find in podcasts will change your life. So, that too, if you're not ready to invest, you don't have the time, money, it's like, we can all do podcasts. So
yeah. Or honestly, a book. So many books have changed my life. Like literally, like they're like, and I could have read, or also audible books. Like you can usually, like, if you have credit, like you can download mine for free if you have Audible and you have credit. Like there's ways for you to listen to these, and all that to say that, like, of all the books I've read, I've probably have taken like one or two nuggets from each of them, and you accumulate that over, like, I've been listening to audiobooks for like the past 5 or 6 years. And like, when I go into the car or go for a walk, like sometimes I'll put on music, because sometimes I just want good vibes, but like most of the time I'm listening to a book or something educational. Like that stuff builds up, and it's pretty much free. If anything, it's like, we don't even blink when we spend $20 on, freaking Starbucks, like, because it's easy to do. Like it's so easy to do, whatever it is. But all that to say, yeah, it really is like I think when it comes to changing, you have to surround yourself with people, whether that's physically or virtually, who are supporting you, understanding you, pushing you, and have kind of been where you're at before. And just, they're going to help remind you that it is possible. Because I think what happens is we get uncomfortable, and then we go backwards to our kind of old habits, and we think things like, oh, what's the point? Or, oh, I can't do it. Or maybe it's not even worth it. Like, why, But when you surround yourself with people, or you listen to a podcast, or you read a book where someone is like, no, I've been there and it really is miserable, and it doesn't get better until you decide to change it, but in a loving way. But like, you have to also be the person who directs where's the ship going. Like, you can't just keep letting life happen to you. You do have to take charge. With that, though, I love what you said, Justine. It's more so you can trust yourself. Like, you can genuinely trust yourself, instead of right now, probably a lot of the adrenaline or the things that you're working off of, those who are listening, is probably related to like pressures of societal pressures, work pressures, family pressures, but if you really just kind of give yourself like, and I'm curious, Justine, we'll probably go into this next, but like, if you give yourself some alone time or some downtime, like even just like 20 minutes a day, the more you do that, the more your body is talking to you, your soul is talking to you, your heart is trying to talk to you, but you just have to create the space to let it out and to listen to it. And that can be hard to do. And especially depending on, your day to day, you might only feel like you have 30 minutes or 30 seconds to yourself, but you got to make use of that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big believer in a morning routine. Like, I don't know who I would be at this point without one. And it started, I think, like 3 years ago. I was just like 15 minutes, a little meditation. And now I get up probably at least an hour early every single morning because I want to, because that time is so important to me. And if I could have like a 4-hour morning routine every day, I totally would.
It's honestly the longer, the better. I find them awesome. It's just like your own little vacation. Your daily mini vacation. Not being interrupted. Solitude.
Totally. Yeah. And with any good habit, just like as we start to take those little, tiptoe steps in the direction of trusting your body around food and really embracing food freedom. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but then slowly as you get those wins, when you go out to dinner and just enjoy everything, enjoy the experience, and there's no food guilt, it's like, this feels so good. And, again, when you start your day with a little extra time instead of rushing, and you really get centered and intentional and just, really start off on the right foot, you're like, this feels so good. And that is really how we rewire our brains and create these habits, so that you're no longer making yourself do these things, or you don't even have to remember it. Like, you just naturally start to gravitate towards what's good for you, because we all want to feel good. So, but we've got to intentionally start, because when you're in a low place, when I was at my lowest, I had so much anxiety. Like, I could barely leave my house. It was just seriously through the roof. And, I would never, ever want to go back to that point in my life. But, I started listening to the audiobooks and doing what I could in podcasts. And, you've got to decide that you want change. And then again, it's like one small step, one foot in front of the other. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it does. It builds up. And what you said about who we surround ourselves with too, my social circle completely changed. I mean, I moved, but I didn't even really keep a lot of the same relationships, because I had really created this environment of people who were also competing and doing terrible things to their bodies. And so it was like normalizing it. And also, I talk a lot in the book about how I didn't really have true female friendships until, again, almost 28 years old, when I went through this whole kind of awakening. That's when I really started, because I changed the relationship with myself. I was able to really let other women in and really trust them and love them and not feel like their competition. Actually start to create some really healthy, supportive friendships. But, we do end up becoming the people we surround ourselves with too. So that is something that we really want to be conscious of.
Totally. That's so true. That's so true. Oh, this is so good. All right. So let's talk about, do you have like a favorite like section or chapter in your book?
I mean, I always say like, I definitely love the ending. Just because I'm like, yay, it all worked out. But yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm just like, I like kind of, someone did that to me when I was doing a live with them. and they like had me pick something, and I was like, what do I want to talk about today?
Do you want me?
I like that you break it down by age too.
Yeah.
I think that's
thank you.
So awesome.
Thank you. Do you want me to read a little section?
Yeah.
Well, I'll read the ending because I feel like it ties in really well with what we've been talking about.
Yeah. That sounds perfect.
All right. Since I hit my personal rock bottom in 2014, I've been in the process of unlearning all the destructive, dysfunctional behaviors and beliefs I had taken in since childhood. I've gone on a personal journey of waking up and learning how to trust my body, my feelings, my decisions, and my desires for the first time in my life. I've learned how to honor myself in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I've learned I get to say no to anything that doesn't feel loving, joyful, or respectful. I've learned I get to ask questions and not just accept what's handed to me. Most importantly, I've learned how to take care of myself in a way that says, someone I love lives here. When I think of how grateful I am to be where I am today, how could I not love that person I see in the mirror?
That's awesome. That's so good. So where can people find the book?
Amazon. It's Kindle, hardcover, paperback, all on Amazon.
Yay. Okay. So I will link that in the show notes. Before we wrap up today, is there any last minute words of wisdom, tips, advice, anything you want to share with the listeners?
I was actually writing an email to my newsletter list this morning, and I've had this quote on my vision board for years that says, fight for your fairy tale. And that's really means so much to me right now, because in the past couple of weeks, I've achieved multiple dreams that I have been dreaming for such a long time. And, just really where I am today, I'm so incredibly grateful, but I really fought to get here and I didn't settle. And, I encourage everyone, if you're not happy where you are, whether it's relationship, career, or just again, in a place with your body that is not feeling good, it can be so different for you. And you're worth it. Your happiness is worth it. And I would say, don't settle, don't stop till you get there. And, again, it doesn't happen overnight, but you absolutely can have what you want. And so fight for your fairy tale.
I love that. I think that's amazing. That's so awesome. So where can people connect with you? Ask you questions, follow up to tell them what they thought of the episode.
My favorite platform right now is Instagram, and my handle is at the Justine Sloan, and also JustineSloan.com is my website. So you can connect with me there. Check out everything I've got going on from the website as well.
Awesome. Okay. I'll put all that in the show notes. Guys, if you liked this episode, please screenshot it, tag myself and Justine on your stories on social media so we can celebrate you for listening. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was. Definitely go grab a copy of her book, Someone I Love Lives Here. It's so good, guys. It's so good. I didn't get to finish it yet, but from the parts that I have picked up and read, I'm just especially if you're a woman, who's ever struggled with her relationship with food or her body, you got to pick it up. That's it. You need it, which is 99% of also people, just not even if you're, just in general, but definitely get a copy of the book. It's on Amazon. I'll link it in the show notes. If you're new to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. We have a new episode that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. All right. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.